Hello, I want to tell you a little about myself. I was born in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan. My mother is a surveyor and my father is a driver. After I was born, they divorced quickly. My mother is a difficult, authoritarian person. It is impossible to get along with her. It does not matter who's right or wrong anymore. When I was very young, my grandparents took me in. My mother was sent to Mangashak to work as a surveyor. My grandparents came from a family of wealthy Kulak, gold miners and old beliefs who were species during the revolution and sought from Russia to Kazakhstan. When my grandparents got married, they were invited to Kyrgyzstan by a friend of my grandfather's who had fought alongside my grandfather and later became the head of a collective farm. They ended up in a mountain village near Bishkek. It was a beautiful place, with a nearby mountain river and mountains beyond a meadow. I lived with them until I was 7 years old. There was a huge garden with only 16 varieties of apple trees, which I loved and which my grandfather had planted. I grew up like a queen eating homemade milk, all kinds of meat and fresh berries and fruits. I also had the best clothes as my uncles were serving in Germany. At the end had brought back the best clothes. I was surrounded by the love of my grandparents and uncles. My grandmother was a clairvoyant and a healer. She could see through people. When he said something about someone, she was always right. Patients come to her and she treated children for fear, bumps and wets. She also gave advice on using medicinal herbs for adults. My grandfather worked as a construction worker and laid stalls, and my grandmother worked at a poultry farm. In the Soviet Union you had to work officially. But my fairy tale ended when I was 7 years old and I had to go to school. There was no Russian language school in the Kyrgyz village, only a kindergarten that I attended. I had to go to my mother's house and my mother came and picked me up. I remember getting off the plane and there was dust, sand and not a single tree inside. I went to first grade without knowing the letters and numbers, but my mother taught me. I was already doing well in second grade. I did well in school because it was a condition that if I had grades, would not go to my grandmother's house for the summer. I also had extracurricular activities and sports clubs. I also took piano lessons. After 8th grade, I moved back in with my grandmother. I did not get along with my stepfather. My father and sister had rotten souls, but I could handle them. However, when my stepfather came in and my brother was born, I could not handle them anymore. I felt like they were going to crush me. I went to my grandmother's for the summer and stayed there. I finished 9th and 10th grade in Bishkek and went to school for 40 minutes from the village or stayed with my uncles. I was happy. After school I attended a medical school. At some point I started to get sick. My grandmother told me that a classmate had cast negativity and spells on me. I needed to find a stronger healer. I heard about a healer named Ismail. He was a Dargin, man with burning brown ears. He lived near Bishkek, near airport. When I went to see him, I had severe pain in my stomach and back. He treated me with his hands. When he placed his hands on my back and stomach, I felt a warm and burning sensation, like an iron. The pain immediately disappeared. Ismail also said that there was a lot of negativity, and he pointed to the same person as my grandmother. When I left his house, I felt like the clouds had cleared and I could breathe easier. A couple of sessions later, I was sitting in class when a girl next to me complained about the stomach. I automatically placed my hand on her and she felt warm and the pain disappeared. I went to see Ismail and told him about it. He said that if I wanted to, I could help him treat people. After a while, the same girl complained that her grandmother was ill. I went to the suburbs to treat her. The grandmother had not taken any water for 3 days. I warmed her with my hands, while her relatives discussed her funeral. After 3 sessions, the grandmother stood up. This was my first patient. A month later, I started seeing people's internal organs malfunctioning and negative energy. At one point, I saw a screen in front of me, like in a matrix. I felt information being loaded into me. After that, I started seeing internal organs and negativity. I have been sensing and seeing people since childhood, but I kept silent. Some were like a black cloud of anger and hatred, while others were like a piece of rotten meat or a tail. I could not describe everyone, but I could sense people with dark souls. When I came to my teacher Ismail, everything somehow took shape and I started to help him with the sick. Everything was automatic. For example, he warms the kidney of the patient with his hand and there is just sand and stones. They need to be removed and the person recovers. My eyes, his power. It got to the point where when I arrived at Ismail's house, yard and surrounding area were filled with patients. It took us about 4 hours to treat them. There were many medical reports and doctors came to us for treatment. One day I started to the healer Ismail before the important time. I went to visit a friend in a neighboring village. The girl was not there, but her sister was. My friend's sister said that she was going to Ismail, where there should be a girl named Tanya, and I said that I would go with her. When we arrived to Ismail, I asked who this Tanya was. I remember his stunned expression, and when we did not get a response, Ismail and I started walking, and there were a lot of patients. This was the case. I show what is lowered, for example, the gastrointestinal tract. Ismail lifts it with his energy, or a displacement of the vertebrae. Ismail makes a movement with his hands, as if he is moving something. For 2 years, I came to him and helped with patience until I felt that I had gained strength and could protect and treat myself. Perhaps I would have continued working with him, but he did not take a fee, only what was given. I told him to at least take the down payment, and you will have money and I have money, but he refused. I stopped coming to his place of work. In general, I felt that our paths had diverged. My personal life. At the age 16, I went to school to a boarding house with my friend and her mother. The night before the trip, I had a dream about a guy I had never seen before. He was thin, tall and had blonde hair. I noticed him when he was getting on the bus for vacational. I could not take my eyes off him and he was also looking at me. Our rooms in the boarding house were next to each other and he lived with his mother and father. His mother has a black soul and was a reptile, and his father was half devil. We to meet and go out, but his mother would ruin everything with her baseless and dirty talk. I could hear her tracked the wall. And she continued to do so in the future. I was afraid to breathe around him because I loved him so much. We only had 2 years, but his mother turned him against me and we rarely saw each other. During these rare meetings, I felt that we would not be together. I saw a picture of the future in which he died early, and I saw a short line of his life. I also met a grandmother Hilly once, when I was walking down the street, and she offered to buy me some apricots. As we talked, we began to get to know each other. She used to heal people with prayers and read their future from the Bible. I brought my loved one to her and she told me that he had been energetically drowned by his mother and was now in an energetic swamp with only one head left. She said I could not handle his mother, that I gave him new strength, but it would not last long. And for some reason she said that when we are about 40, we will be together probably to reassure me. She also told me that I should not live with my mother. It was much later that I realized how complex a person my mother is. But once I was in the center of Bishkek and saw closed doors around, I understood that I would leave and returned to my mother. I did a bit of trading, bought a flat and separated from my mother. I called my beloved man and told him that I got married. I just thought it would be easier. He started doing business, lots of money, real estate. When we met, he was a simple student from an ordinary family. At some point he broke down, started drinking heavily and died of cirrhosis. This was told to me later by his friend. So I had no personal life as such. I had men when I needed them. But living with a man married without love, it is worse than hell. Yes, strong men almost did not meet, came across, or much older or married. Yes, and felt that with me few people can withstand one thing to warm out the fire and another constantly in it to burn. I did not want children for 2 reasons. I was the eldest in the family, and my mother always told me how hard it was for her to be alone with the younger children. 3 husbands did not work out. Even though my mother was on oil working and always earned good money. This is another reason why I did not want children. My main goal was to dive into the darkness as deeply as possible. Before the earth entered the 3rd millennium, I had to become a shield against the most malicious and dangerous evil spirits. I had to defeat them, and I needed to emerge from black energy, while also closing the less dangerous black holes with evil spirits. It turns out that I spent 30 years sinking into darkness and 20 years getting out of it. When I was immersed in black energy, all the patients came with black souls. That's why I know about them and classify them. There were no others, so I had to work with them. I had to live and work. I saw myself submerged in dark water with a tube in my mouth that supplied air. I don't think any child soul could have withstood being near me. In short, I am neutral towards children. My entire conscious life has consisted of patience, nephews and working at my mother's garden, but I love that land. It is 2025 and I am 51 old. I am full of energy and hope for a brighter future. I love my work, my patience, and you, my dear fellows, who have trusted me and believed in my abilities. Some people ask why I don't show my face. There will be streams and You will see that I have nothing to hide. Thank you for listening to my story. All the best.